Good morning. I was watching events that are going on around across America and in America and by America, right? And obviously, Trump meeting Putin is a pretty significant one. Makes sense as well, right? Why would you just want to constantly have this threat of impending doom hanging over people when there's other ways of coming about it, right? It's not to excuse anything, right? It's not to get caught in the argument of who was right and who was wrong in this instance. But at a certain point, you also need to reflect and look and say, does this need to continue happening? If yes, see it out. If no, then what can we do to assure that this ends now, right? Or we begin the process of it ending anyway. But there's something else going on in America that I think it has probably broader implications or more apparent consequences for Ireland, or implications for Ireland. And that is regarding the Muslim Brotherhood, right? So, Marco Rubio, is he the Secretary of State, involved in international diplomacy and all that stuff, right? I think he started the process of America, I don't know if they've fully done it yet, but of designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. That's a fascinating one, right? Because we can kick about a few things that may or may not happen as a result of that. Naturally, Ireland is after seeing an exponential increase in Muslims in this country. We also know that Muslims have baked into the ideology, right, a desire to expand and see as many people serve their God or as many people follow their ways as possible, right? Even if that means worldwide caliphate, okay? We're all Muslim now, right? But they also understand that it's not just a case of going over and asking people, do you want to be Muslim as well with us? And if you don't, so we'll head on over there then and we won't be bothering you. That hasn't been the case historically, okay? And not even just in terms of Islam, but in terms of aspirational ideologies and the systems that support them throughout history, right? Centralized, organized, and final religious ideologies, okay? Like Christianity is one, right? The belief system is not dynamic. It's not going to change. It is what it is, right? They did that as well. They put people to the sword, right? So you can convert or you can die. So it's not just an Islam thing. It's a problem that comes from religious zealotry, whatever garb that's in, right? So Islam knows that they can't just knock on doors and ask for alms, right? So they've other ways of waging their war, right? And sometimes it is more blatant and kinetic. Other times it is through infiltration and sabotage and subversion. And one of the tools or tricks of the trade that they have is called taqiyya, right? And it means that it is permissible to lie or to be deceitful and to even shun Allah or shun Muhammad if it is for the continued expansion and growth of Islam. It is permitted then, right? Fair enough. Fair enough. It'd be great if everyone was open and honest and upfront with what they're doing and what they're after, but they're not, right? Welcome to the world. So it's safe to say, and it's safe to assume, and it's safe to obviously take it with a pinch of salt, right? But we've had Garda warnings about this. We've had Interpol warnings about this. We have had warnings from heads of state in the Middle East about this. The extremism that is going to be smuggled into countries or fostered and homegrown from Muslims who've come here either first or second or third generation, right? You're seeing this in England, where some of the second or third or fourth generation Muslims are becoming more radicalized than the original the original Muslims that came there, right? So it's not a case of integration occurs, and the more these people are here, the more like us they become. That is not the case, or it's not always the case, or it's not even enough of the case for it to become apparent, right? And England, Sweden, France, shining examples of this, right? If you were wanting to understand the trajectory and the way things could go. So we're kind of left, because people aren't transparent about what's going on. Governments certainly aren't. The Gardaí certainly aren't. The courts certainly aren't. The media certainly aren't, right? You only get snippets. Things like mosques being closed down, the gates being chained shut, and no reason given. Internal dispute was given. Naturally, because we've been kind of seasoned by what's been going on in Europe, America, the world, the Middle East for the last 20 or so years, if you just want to take there, right? When you hear of a mosque being shut, internal disputes, and not being opened again, it is perfectly reasonable to suggest that there's something concerning going on there, maybe dangerous, possibly criminal and illegal, right? A fair assessment to make on it, given the lack of knowledge or the lack of information that we've been given on these things, right? We have had attacks, murders, and crimes in this country committed by people of that ideology, and some of the crimes have been carried out in a way that the MO of those crimes is directly correlated with some direction that is given in the Hadiths and given in the Quran regarding certain types of people, homosexuals, kafirs, non-Muslims, right? So you can grab these things and go, okay, that relates to that, and that relates to that, and then those things together look like this, right? You have that Dr. Umar, I don't know his second name, right? But you'll probably be aware of him, right? He's an Imam. He is as obvious a deceiver as you can imagine. He's ran for election a couple of times, and the support he's got has been negligible. And over the last few months, he seems to have changed his tune a little bit, right? He's gone from, I'm peace giver and I love all the people in public, to a little bit more hardline in terms of being offensive against, and I mean on the attack, not just like, oh, my sensibilities have been offended. Offensive against Irish people. And recently he's been coming out and talking about Conor McGregor, and the rhetoric from McGregor is instilling fear and friction and tension between the different communities, and therefore he should be shunned, and he's not Irish and he doesn't represent what's Irish, as if this man was to know, right? So therefore stay away from him, kind of a thing. And what this may or may not have led to was the attempted arson, but the attempted burning to the ground of McGregor's pub. And there's video footage of the man that did it, grainy, right? Not clear. And a few days after that, there was a guy the video was out there of him stabbing a guard. There was speculation as to the authenticity of the video or the situation itself. And that's perfectly fine to speculate, right? All that is just asking questions and not accepting a given perspective, but exploring other ones up until the point where something is definitive. However definitive a thing can ever be, right? But McGregor came out then in the last few days saying that he has been informed take it with a pinch of salt, right? Because no one knows, or I don't know. Neither do you, right? Whether that's true or not. Because so Mcgregor came out saying that it's the same guy. That's interesting, right? That's really interesting. So, who is this guy? Who's he connected to? What would his intentions be of burning down, on paper at least, right, or in theory, a proposed presidential candidate who has taken a hard line on illegal immigration and the nonsense that's been going on in this country? A hard line that would probably most likely impact this man, if it is to be the same man, would most likely impact this man staying in Ireland, right? So were his actions dictated by his opposition to what McGregor might do? Were they just a personal thing? They didn't like McGregor? Or did he just not like pubs and that was the first pub he seen? Or was this man moved to act in this way by the rhetoric that's coming out of his priest, his Imam, right? In which case you'd ask questions of the funding of this man. Who is he connected to? What is he connected to? Right, so he's spoken of, this Imam has spoken of using immigration to further Islam's future and expansion, which are in line with the Muslim Brotherhood, right? So my point on that is, if America designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, and Ireland, not to mention the rest of the European countries, are seen to be harbouring members of the Muslim Brotherhood, or harbouring and allowing for the funding of the Muslim Brotherhood, if not outright funding aspects of it themselves, indirectly or directly, there could be sanctions put on Ireland for that, right? All American businesses, I would imagine, would be automatically pulled out of the country. What would that do? That puts a massive amount of pressure on the Irish politicians, because make no mistake about it, right? While they will try and they are trying to do anything they can to just beat people back to sleep again and take all the pressure off them, they are changing laws as they go. They make a decision, Irish people figure out a way of combating it legally, and then they just change the laws to take that ability to defend them, for the Irish people to defend themselves or to object, off the books, right? So you're not dealing with reason, you're dealing with a creature that is in survival mode. But the last thing that creature wants is 100,000 people who are now out of a job demanding to know why the Irish government would choose to continue to be seen to be harbouring members of the Muslim Brotherhood, or businesses, organisations, charities, religious networks, whatever the case is, that are linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. Why the Irish government would choose to continue in that sphere of impression or perspective, or whatever what you want to call it, instead of just rinsing the country of it and allowing for American businesses, infrastructure, all that stuff to be maintained in a way that would allow for those 100,000 people to remain employed, right? So that could be an absolute massive golden token, right, in terms of negotiating, clearing, helping Europe defend itself and protect itself and preserve itself from what's been going on. That could have a massive impact on the future of Europe, essentially. Because you watch the way the government works, right, and the media and all that. So it's all about, in Ireland's case especially, we've been well studied, well dissected and well understood, right? Achilles' heels, our strengths and virtues have all been understood, right? And they're open for weaponization against us. And one of them is the social morality, right? How we're seen by other people means so much to us that it's probably in the top one or two things of which that motivate people to present or behave in whatever way it is, right? It is probably in the one or two top motivating factors for Irish people. Not wanting to look stupid, not wanting to get anything wrong, not wanting to know. We don't want to be seen to be any of them things, but we also don't want to be seen to be bad people. We don't want to be seen to be disruptive in some way in terms of standing out and opposing what the group or what the town or the tribe follows and believes, right? We're not necessarily interested in true and false in Ireland. We're interested in perspective. So what looks to be the best way of seeing this? And then we go, well, what way are most people looking at it? And then we kind of just drift in with that, right? However, and this government uses this all day long, right? To the point where they don't even pay you the respect of having an open and honest conversation or debate about anything. All they'll do is attach a moral sentiment or an emotion or a feeling or the potential for social condemnation if you are to follow or to not even follow, if you are to just pretend or make steps like you're going to look down a certain way of viewing things, right? A certain way of interpreting the data, the information that appears to us in reality, right? So, and that seems to be enough for people. We forego intellectual debate. Over time, we become dumber and dumber, unable to use our reason, disinterested in argumentation or facts or logic, because that's not how we decide things here. We decide things based on how others will view us if we adhere to this way of looking at it. And it's become so extreme that even asking certain questions is enough to make people question themselves, question the desire to ask questions about something, right? And that video of the guy with stabbing the guards was an interesting one because it revealed a lot about Irish people and how we censor ourselves, right? That you have people that are majorly in the same line in terms of wanting to do what's best for Ireland in whatever way that looks, but in principle, people would agree with that. A lot of people would agree with that. And they were arguing over, some people, myself included, just asking the question, was this a real interaction? Or was it manufactured or staged in some way? And you get pushback. So Irish people, even with the best of intentions, right? We are mini tyrants running around here because we will disregard and poo-poo certain ideas and shame and name call people who just want to ask a question about whether we should accept this thing that happened as it's presented to us when we weren't present when it happened. So we can't trust our own senses on it. But if you ask certain questions about it, you're ridiculed for it. I don't believe that that's an organic thing. That's not healthy. And a few other things I've seen recently would allow me to come to the view that there are elements that are pro-national, pro-Irish, that are trying to neuter certain conversations because they're not vote winners, right? Or they're being declared or claimed to be non-vote winning arguments, right? And I think questioning the validity of recorded video and this whole setup of it, that's not on the cards for these people. So they're going to have their little sleepers or bots or whatever that are going to piss all over certain conversations, right? My point on that is you don't get to do that when it's just people that are trying to look at something from a different perspective and maybe come to the truth of it, right? Instead of just accepting it wholesale from the get-go. But yeah, we have, again, America declaring the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. If that happens, that could help Ireland and further afield rinse out and cleanse the country of certain elements that have been here, right? And hopefully it'll open up a little bit more transparency in terms of the information that has been given to us, because we need it. Without it, you're kind of swinging in the dark, right? And the more information you withhold, the less certain people can be about anything. So the more the potential is there for infighting, disagreement, bickering, and questioning people's character around asking certain questions or exploring certain potentials. What do you think of that? Do you think that that would be an impactful move by Trump on or for European countries, ourselves included? I think it's a big bargaining chip, and I think it's going to put a significant amount of pressure on Irish politicians. I think you will see the claims for supporting Palestine to fall away to nothing after that happens, because I think it's going to be dangerous ground, because you can't claim that any support given would not be falling into the hands of Hamas, who have links with the Muslim Brotherhood, because of course it is, because they're in charge of Palestine. So you can't fund them anymore. And that's not to even get into the conversation of what's going on there, right or wrong, because I don't know. Again, do I follow the videos? Do I look at it? I'm really not interested in what's going on in Palestine and Israel. I think, do people need to needlessly lose their lives continuously? Of course not. Outside of that, what you want to do about it, you know?